very, very warm welcome to you as you join us on today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuluko. The month of June 2018 is split right in the middle, and that means that the tax amnesty program, the voluntary assets and income declaration scheme put in place by the federal government of Nigeria, is coming to an end. Yes, the voluntary assets and income declaration scheme kicked off on July 1st, 2017 to run for 9 months. But due to government's magnanimity, it was extended by a further 3 months. And so, VATES closes on June 30, 2018. And so, just in case there are people who have not taken advantage of this 12 months window, we want to leave everything else to embark on yet another in our public enlightenment series on VATES. Our effort will revolve around a workshop jointly put together by the Federal Ministry of Finance and the Joint Tax Board for tax collectors themselves. The Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Babatunde Fowler, who is also the Chairman of the Joint Tax Board, delivered the opening address at the workshop.
We're in the last month of the VATES exercise. This exercise, basically, a lot of people look at it as just an exercise to generate more revenue, which is true. But I think it is a seed that has been sown in the Nigerian economy and thinking, and that is that tax administration is the only way to ensure that all tiers of government has sufficient revenue to carry out their respective budgets and provide the required services to both you and I. As of date, we have recovered over 30 billion from individuals and corporate establishments, out of which 90% was collected through the FIRS or for the FIRS. And when we say for the FIRS, I always like to point it out that the revenue that we do collect is shared between the 3 tiers of government: federal, state, and local government. So when we say FIRS, we're talking about the nation. To date, we're happy that we've been able to grow the tax database to 19 million, which will show that in the last 18 months, we've been able to grow it from 10 to 19 million. And I believe that with all efforts on ground, and as we continue to improve our level of efficiency, that number should be able to move to at least 40 million in the next 12 to 18 months, if not even before then.
And there's note of warning.
Now, when we look at VATES as a project, we have to look at best practices and what actually applies in other developed countries of the world. And I'll be referring to the Unexplained Wealth Order, the UWO, of the United Kingdom. Basically, they're looking at assets that have been purchased by both citizens and non-citizens in their country, and the source of that wealth. And where that source of wealth cannot be established, that asset house will be seized. And I liken it to what happened in Nigeria. Everyone, when Evans was caught, was shouting, "Oh, he lived in a nice neighborhood." But yet, if you looked at his tax profile, I doubt if he paid any tax. He went across to Ghana and bought properties in the choicest neighborhoods of Ghana. And all that was required was for the Ghanaian authorities to say, "Let us run a check on this individual," or "Let us see your tax status." Or even within Nigeria, based on the properties he had, I believe in Magodo, if anyone had asked for his tax status for having such a property, maybe he would have been stopped before he was even caught long ago. And I believe that is the message that we're sending to the public. When we see people coming into sudden wealth without any visible source of income, or explanation for that income, and worst of all, not even paying taxes on that income for the improvement of our society. So this cooperation ranges from the exchange of information on request, both internally and internationally, and also in the exchange of information with our international bodies. And Nigeria, as a nation, will commence the automatic exchange with treaty partners in 2019. Finally, I wish to conclude this address by urging all of us to maximize the few weeks left of the VATES amnesty program through the execution of adequate sensitization and awareness campaign in our various tax jurisdictions. There's still a few weeks left. Some people will wait to the last 7 days. So please prepare yourself to receive them. Prepare yourself to make sure that as long as they can get into the shop before closing time, that you service them.
We move on by refreshing our memories with some nuggets on what VATES is all about.
VATES has a legal backing, so it's not as if a policy was just promulgated. But both the president and the governors of states have got powers within the Personal Income Tax Act to grant waivers of taxes, to forgive penalties, and to withhold the right of prosecution. And this is the basis for the VATES policy. So even though some people have queried it, that it's like you are denying, or it's a disadvantage to those who have willfully or voluntarily complied over time. But what I just want to establish is that VATES itself has statutory backing, and you can see it in the Personal Income Tax Act. You can also see it in the FRS Establishment Act. Now, the Nigerian VATES, we know is a collaboration between the states and the Federal Inland Revenue Service. And of course, all the taxes are covered, both the ones that are collected at the federal level and those that are collected at the state level. Initially, it was for 9 months, now extended to 12. It covers everybody to disclose his assets, to disclose his income, as long as you know that you had hidden any of those information from the tax authority before. And of course, especially for people who have never really been in the tax net, VATES is an opportunity to bring them in. Well, participation means no payment of interest, no payment of penalty, no prosecution for default that should have happened if the person was caught. And of course, government is also waiving tax audits. Government is given an opportunity to pay over installments of up to 3 years. And again, the fact that the assets are now declared makes it easy for assets that were previously held in the name of nominees to be transferred to the real owners and made to appear as that without any difficulties.
Penalties for non-participation are there.
Non-participation means that government should be ready to prosecute, government should be ready to penalize after the VATES period. It means that government too will have an opportunity to name and shame people who have been identified as tax evaders. And of course, we believe that tax authorities have capacity to carry out a profiling of especially high net worth individuals within their jurisdiction and compare the results of such profiling with the tax returns that they have been filing over time. And if such people did not participate in VATES, it's expected that those people should suffer the penalties to the fullest.
On his experience and that of his colleagues on the field.
Now, this is what we have seen in practice. All that is what you already know. But in practice, this is what we have seen with most of the tax authorities. The declaration process starts from the downloading of the form, or there are some people who actually receive hard copies of the forms sent to them directly by the Federal Ministry of Finance. They complete the forms and they submit it at the VAT's desk, and it's expected to make things easy and to make things move fast that the declarant actually does a computation of the tax liability himself and presents it to the tax authority for review. And the tax authority reviews the computations alongside the information that has been disclosed. Where the tax authority believes that there are gaps in the disclosure or there are information that have not been provided, it can return the form back to the declarant or make a demand for additional information or additional documents from the declarant to support the declaration that has been made. But where the tax authority is satisfied with the volume and the quality of information that has been provided, it goes ahead to raise tax assessments, which he sends to the taxpayer. The taxpayer, if he agrees, he works out a payment plan and commence payment. Where he doesn't agree, just like in every assessment process, he is entitled to object to the assessment and have it reviewed if necessary. Many taxpayers were excited to participate, and they were happy with the opportunity to finally make good their defects. And this is unbelievable too, because the general belief you normally have is that Nigerians don't want to pay tax. But we have seen high net worth individuals who were willing to come forward and say, look, I have never really bothered to do it right because nobody had really cared. But with this care that is being put out there, that they are going to come after us, we want to do it right. So you see people actually making declaration that is making them to pay tax arrears in the hundreds of millions. There is another category of taxpayers who have, despite the persuasions, refused to join. And I think we need to understand this. We need to note this. And those are people whose fears is mainly around uncertainty. Uncertainty of, well, the government says we are going to be protected. But again, they will tell you, how are we sure that the government will keep its word? Uncertainty as to the confidentiality of the information that they are releasing. Some people say, look, in my territory, if people know I have this kind of money, kidnappers are going to come after me. And for that reason, I don't think I want to. So, and that means that we need to build confidence in the public and let them know that whatever they are providing is confidential and will be treated as such. And that we need to also ensure that even the infrastructure we put in place within our environment for VATs should give that confidence, not just because we speak it, but because people believe that from what they see, that whatever they are providing will be secured.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS calls on all corporate organizations operating in Nigeria to register for the purpose of payment of taxes and obtain a tax identification number TIN. All registered companies must obtain a tax identification number immediately from the nearest FIRS office. You can also collect and return tax registration forms from the Federal Inland Revenue Service Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Teams, FEET, on compliance checks exercise in your area. A company which is yet to commence business after at least 6 months of incorporation must pay a pre-operational levy of 20,000 naira in the first year and 25,000 naira for subsequent years to obtain its tax clearance certificate TCC. Note that filing and payment of VAT and withholding tax returns must be done on or before the 21st day of every month. Register for VAT. File all tax returns as and at when due. Be a responsible corporate citizen of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Welcome back. We're talking about the Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme, which comes to an end on June 30, 2018. Just in case you missed the boat, what will happen? There is a project named Project Lighthouse.
The idea of that project is that we are collating data from multiple sources to help bring out a lot of taxpayers to the fore. We have information about land ownership in different states. We have FCT, we have Lagos, we have Kaduna, and we are in the process of adding to that database at the moment. That's the first. And what we've also done is that we're using that data to move from a reactive tax administration system to a proactive tax administration system. So what we did was to send out what we call notch letters. The notch letters are simply letters we send to those we have identified through our profiling engine that they have either not complied or they have not even been captured into the tax net at all. And we will send them letters to tell them that there is actually an amnesty opportunity that they can take advantage of. And we have sent, to date, we've sent over 100,000 of those letters. For those of you who might have heard, it sends somewhat of a jittery down the spines of a lot of people because a lot of them never knew that the taxman really does know about them. And in some cases, I have had personal encounters with fairly senior people, both in the civilian as well as in the military circle, who have come to me and say, well, I think I'm compliant. I say, well, I'm not sure, because I have information that you own properties that you bought in the last 7 years, and there was no indication in your tax record that you actually paid taxes in the money that you used to acquire that. And they're surprised that we can point to specific properties that we actually found in our system. I have a case of someone that came to me and said, well, we have a TCC, why did we get this letter? And when we went to our database, we discovered that there was a job they did that this VAT for that was not remitted by the MDA that debited the VAT. So effectively, the tax authority that was supposed to be a beneficiary of that VAT never got that money. And what it also indicated was the fact that when the companies file their taxes with FRS, for instance, they do not include whether or not VAT remittance was a condition then before they get the TCC. So we did a simple comparison. We looked at the companies that had paid, who had paid their CIT. They've gotten their TCC. But when you look at the section for VAT, there was no VAT remittance. But we also know that based on the breakdown of their revenues, a lot of the services that they made revenues from are VATable. But there was no payment of VAT in the system. And so when we did the profiling, their names showed up and we sent them that letter. And we are finding that to be a very useful tool because a lot of the people who have actually participated in VATs responded through those notch letters. And again, I think the experience we have here is, which you might also want to consider, is looking at mining that database and sending out the letters. We will send letters, the copies of the letters we've sent out to them, because I know in your, some of the people have said we don't receive up to maybe 10 declarations. But in your state, we probably have over 100 notch letters we've sent out. And each of those has a basis that those people are not compliant. And that's the kind of information that I want to share with you. We found situations whereby you have taxpayers that have assets and incomes from multiple states. Now, when you're looking at the income with respect to the data you have in your own state, chances are you don't have visibility over their income in other states because you don't have that data. Whereas they are supposed to be paying taxes in your state, but they are receiving income in other states. And in those states, they are claiming that they are paying taxes in your state. So we end up in a pretty much a Bermuda Triangle scenario where there are pockets and silos of income that they are not declaring. And there is no way for you to know that those incomes exist and that you're supposed to collect taxes on them because you don't have visibility over that. This is going to help us block some of those loopholes. If we do not show a resolve and commitment to enforcement, we're going to do a couple of damages for this program. One is that those who have complied will feel betrayed that they have been taken for a ride. And those who have not declared will believe that they were right in not declaring. And we do not want that because it will create permanent damage to our capability to be able to generate revenues going forward. So, and I think one of the things that if there's any message that has to come out of here is the fact that the respective states need to really take enforcement seriously, especially after the expiration of the deadline. And the approval for the expiration by the president was very explicit, that the 3 months was not just to give an opportunity for those who have not participated to participate, but also to enable the tax authorities to prepare for enforcement after the expiration of that deadline. And we're hoping that we can work together in ensuring that we achieve the goals of tax administration beyond VAT.
A word they say is enough for the wise. Do not miss the boat. You have 2 more weeks to go. Go out there tomorrow morning and file. Something big happened at the event. Something very, very big. The unveiling of the trophy. Well, not exactly a trophy. The unveiling of the prize due to everyone who files successfully under VAT and pays the due taxes. They call it the VAT Declaration Certificate.
I'm happy to inform you that after due inputs and comments from members, the Minister of Finance and the Chairman of JTB has approved the issuance of the certificate to taxpayers that have voluntarily declared their assets under the scheme. As part of efforts towards appreciating and motivating taxpayers, the voluntary assets and income declaration is previously disclosed assets. Certificates will be issued for all those that will partake under the scheme. The voluntary assets and income declaration certificate is different from the tax clearance certificate we issue. I believe we all know that, but we also need to educate members of the public so that they don't take it as it's a tax clearance certificate and present it that they pay their taxes. What it means is that you've taken the opportunity provided by VAT to declare your assets. So, and therefore, a certificate, it's a one lifetime certificate will be issued to you that you participated. Thereafter, the necessary tax authorities will carry out their interrogation of your declaration, and when you make payment as to taxes that are assessed, then a tax clearance certificate will be given that you've actually paid your taxes.
So first of all, I'd like to thank all taxpayers who have declared so far. For those who have not come through, we still have a few more days or weeks left. Please join us to ensure that we can make Nigeria the Nigeria of our dreams, a Nigeria that we can live proudly to our grandchildren or great-grandchildren moving forward. So I'd like to unveil this certificate, which, to my mind, has given Nigerians another opportunity to be law-abiding, giving Nigerians another opportunity to do the right thing, giving Nigerians an opportunity to give back to this country, to this beloved country of ours, the only country that we have, to make it better. Okay, this is Katsina, for example, or they're all Katsina, but each state has a separate certificate which will be endorsed and signed off by the respective chairman, and of course the Federal Inland Revenue Service also has its own.
Tax Matters sought clarification from the chairman of the Joint Tax Board on the difference between the regular tax clearance certificate and the VAT declaration certificate. Sir, you just launched the VAT clearance certificate, and we wonder what is the difference between the VAT clearance certificate and the regular tax clearance certificate?
Well, the VAT declaration certificate, just as the name implies, means it's for taxes you have not paid in the past, and you have declared these taxes voluntarily, and you have the state authority or the FIRS has accepted it and have issued you a certificate to show that this is unremitted tax. Now, you have got current tax that are due. So your state's Internal Revenue Service or the FIRS will now issue a tax clearance certificate to show that you're current and have paid all outstanding taxes. But where you have not paid all outstanding taxes and they have given you the approval to spread the payments over a certain period, then they will still issue a tax clearance certificate subject to you fulfilling those obligations of future payments of the outstanding taxes. It's a declaration of total taxes that you owe. And under that scheme, you'll also be given a letter which will show how your payment process will be. If it's 12 months, if it's 24 months, but that declaration is for the total amount of taxes that are due.
Take our advice. Go out there and file. There are still 2 more weeks to go. We thank you most sincerely for watching today's episode of the program. We hope to see you again next week, same station, same day of the week, same time of the day. Have a blessed week ahead.